On the first day of the new semester in 11th grade, a girl transferred into the class next door, fair-skinned and beautiful. She instantly drew a flock of boys trying to get close to her. Yet one afternoon during break, she strolled straight up to me, and in front of the entire class, slammed her backpack onto my desk. With a pitiful, wrong tone, she said, "George, aren't you going to explain about you licking my feet yesterday?" Amid the rising murmurs around us, I looked at her, let out a small smile, pulled my phone from my bag, and dialed a number. "Hello, could you send someone over? Someone is publicly making defamatory and harassing statements about me." Chapter 1. Under everyone's gaze, Willow's face instantly flushed red. She clutched the hem of her skirt, stammering, "George, don't be like this. I was just joking with you." People around us joined in, heckling, "Yeah, the goddess is just joking around. Why are you taking it so seriously? I wish I could lick the goddess's feet. See, what's the point of being smart? He's just a nerd who can't even take a joke." Amid the flattery and excuses offered on her behalf, Willow gradually calmed down. She reached out her hand to me again, wearing a smile. "Hello, George. I'm Willow, the new transfer student next door. I heard you're really smart, a genius. Can we get to know each other?" I ignored the hand she extended, lowered my eyes, and continued finishing my call. Yes. City A no. 3 high school. All right, I'll wait for you here." Hanging up, I put my phone back into my bag and picked up my pen again to continue solving the advanced calculus problem I hadn't finished. The classroom fell utterly silent. Willow lowered her hand. Her face turned from red to pale, inch by inch. "Was that really necessary?" she asked me with a trembling voice. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, the police arrived. Willow, the dumbfounded homeroom teacher, and I were all taken to the office. After understanding the whole story, the police officers gave Willow a stern warning. "You don't even know George. Why would you say something like that about him in public? Young lady, how can you speak so recklessly? Do you know that verbal harassment also counts as bullying?" Tears welled at Willow's eyes. She sobbed uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, officer. I was wrong. I just heard that George is introverted and doesn't like talking, so I learned something online to get him to speak. I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to be friends with him." Seeing her attitude was sincere, the officer sighed and cautioned her, "Stop learning random tricks online. If George truly had autism, what you did would only worsen his condition. You young people need to read more positive things and fewer shady tricks." Willow nodded through her tears. It wasn't a big matter to begin with. After a brief mediation, the police left. The homeroom teacher also scolded Willow a little before letting us go back to evening self-study. Willow left first. I followed a moment later but was stopped by the teacher. "George." The middle-aged man hesitated for a long while before finally speaking. "Next time something like this happens, tell the teacher first. Don't call the police right away. It's too extreme. Your classmates will think poorly of you." I paused, then calmly asked, "Why would they think poorly of me? Was any of this my fault?" The teacher was speechless. I let out a cold laugh and walked straight out, leaving the man's sigh behind me. When I returned to the classroom, my desk area was a mess, books scattered everywhere. On my desktop, someone had scrawled the words, "Tattletale Freak," in crooked whiteboard marker strokes. I bent down to pick up my workbook, swept my eyes around the room, and asked, "Who did this?" No one answered. I asked again, "Do I need to pull the surveillance footage?" Still, no one spoke. I walked to the first row, first seat, and kicked the desk hard, the loud bang echoing through the classroom. "Was it you?" The owner of the desk quickly shook his head. "And no, it wasn't me." I walked to the next one. "Was it you?" No. Finally, a boy couldn't hold it in anymore. He stood up from the corner, glaring at me with hatred. "I did it. What can you do to me? You're the one who bullied Willow." I tugged the corner of my lips, then I walked over, kicked his desk aside, grabbed him by the collar, and studied his face closely. "You transferred here from somewhere else, right?" I asked. "Take a guess. Why is it that out of the entire class, you're the only one who dared to do this?" His face flushed red. Struggling, he shouted, "Because they're all cowards." "No," I said slowly, unhurriedly, "because they value their lives." After that, I swung my fist at him. My punch skimmed past his temple, the wind whistling, then landed on the wall with a heavy bang. I loosened my grip. The boy slumped down the wall, collapsing onto the floor. He stared at my hand with terror, his lips pale and trembling uncontrollably. Blood dripped down, fall after fall. I licked my lips and gave a faint smile. Then, dipping my left hand into the blood running down my right, I wrote a large word on his desk. Coward. Chapter 2. In school, students with excellent grades always receive certain special privileges. At 5:30 in the evening, I strapped on my backpack and walked out of the school gate. Willow hurried up from behind me. "George, you're not going to evening self-study?" She had regained her energy again, chirping like a sparrow. "Oh, I get it, you're so smart. Did your homeroom teacher give you special permission to skip evening study? Have you eaten? Where are you going? Why aren't you talking to me? George, are you still mad at me?" I stopped walking and stood by the bus stop. 30 seconds later, an old model bus slowly pulled in. I took 2 yuan from my pocket, bought a ticket, and got on. Willow bit her lip, glanced around, then took out her phone to scan the fare and followed me onto the bus. Sitting beside me, the bus rattled along until it reached a stop near the night market. After getting off, I went to the stall I rented, cleaned it briefly, then turned on the fire and began making fried noodles. Oil sizzling over high heat. An egg cracked in with a sharp hiss. After scrambling it apart with a spoon and scooping it out, I poured in fresh oil, tossed in onions to release their aroma, then added the noodles, eggs, and vegetables together to stir-fry. My right hand was still wrapped in bandages, but even while flipping the wok and adding seasonings, my movements were practiced, like I'd done this 1,000 times. In truth, I had done it 1,000 times. My living expenses and tuition over these past years were all earned one ladle of stir-fry at a time. This night market wasn't some trendy hotspot. It only stayed open because there were several large factories and electronics plants nearby, along with a construction site. In this noisy, muddy environment, Willow stood there in a white knee-length skirt, a glittering rhinestone hair clip on her black hair. She looked completely out of place. An auntie who had just ordered a bowl of fried noodles enthusiastically recommended it to her. "You should get one too, girl. This young man makes the best rice noodles, clean and delicious." Willow hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward and stood before my stall. "George, I want a serving of fried noodles." Without looking up, I tapped the QR code sticker in the upper corner with my spoon. 6 yuan. She transferred me 100. I still made her a portion based on the 6 yuan standard. Willow poked at it with her chopsticks, her face looking displeased. "George, you didn't even give me an extra egg," I said. 6 yuan fried noodles don't come with an extra egg. Willow was speechless. At 11 o'clock, I closed my stall on time. Willow still hadn't gone home. She had finished her noodles, and the disposable chopsticks were already tossed into the trash. She sat by the roadside, baring her teeth as she swatted mosquitoes. Her pale legs were covered in red bumps. I glanced over, tossed her a bottle of medicated oil, and said simply, "Stops the itching." She looked at me pitifully. "It's so late. George, can you walk me home?" I paused for a beat. "Where do you live?" She gave an address. It was a well-known high-end residential area, and coincidentally, right along the way to my own place. After washing my hands clean, I picked up my backpack and started walking. She quickly jumped to her feet, patted the dust off her skirt, and followed closely behind me. When we reached the entrance of her residential complex, Willow called out to me, "George, thank you for walking me home." Under the moonlight, the girl's brows curved gently, her voice sweet and soft. "Does this mean we're friends now?" The night breeze swept away the lingering heat. The obedient, sympathetic rich girl looked at me with her dark eyes full of expectation, gaze shimmering and focused. Such a heart-stirring scene. If not for those voices, I curled the corner of my lips. Maybe. Joy bloomed instantly in the girl's eyes. "Ah, system, did you hear that? I became friends with the male lead on the very first day. I told you, male leads in healing-type novels are the easiest to be conquered. In the books I've read, all you have to do is curl a finger and give them a little sweetness, then they'll come kissing you on their own dot. But it looks like George doesn't like a chatty, sunshine-type girl. I need to adjust my conquering strategy." I gave her a small nod. "See you tomorrow, Willow." A faint blush colored her cheeks. Her eyes sparkled as she said happily, "See you tomorrow, George." On my way back, I received a friend request from Willow. I looked at it for a few seconds and tapped accept. I added a note for her. Number 2, Chapter 3. The key slid into the lock and turned halfway. The old security door opened with a creak. A tiny 15-square-meter room, aside from the bathroom. It only had space for a single iron bed. A frail woman lay on the bed. Her whole body was paralyzed. She couldn't care for herself. After lying there for an entire day, the once clean bedding was already soaked through with her waist. Even though I had opened the window before leaving in the morning, the air was still thick with stench. "Mom." I approached her and asked softly, "Why are you so unwilling to keep clean?" Terror flashed across the woman's face. Her whole body couldn't move. Only her eyes darted wildly, and her throat made hoarse, choking sounds. "Oh, I forgot." I sighed with disappointment. "Your system abandoned you. I can't hear your inner voice anymore." I lifted her onto a chair, replaced the old plastic sheet on the bed with a fresh one, then fed her some rice porridge and water. She had starved all day. Her eyes locked desperately onto the spoon, swallowing the food like a starving dog. Soon the bowl was empty. I wiped her mouth and carried her back to the bed. The room was quiet, Only a tungsten bulb hanging from the ceiling by a piece of electrical wire swayed faintly in the breeze. Life like this must be miserable, right, Mom? I said suddenly, unable to move. No dignity, needing others for everything. But don't worry, this will all be over soon. I smiled. Mom, today I met a new female lead. I have a feeling you're going to die soon. Not conquered. No, fully dead. I clarified kindly. Just like my parents. Completely dead. The woman's eyes flew wide open. Her breathing grew rough. She let out 2 frantic, broken cries. On this face, I had once seen pretended kindness, fake gentleness, a superiority she could never fully hide. Now all of that had vanished, leaving only fear, a wonderfully soothing fear. After admiring it long enough, I pulled a folding cot from the corner, opened it, and went to sleep. 3 days later, my adoptive mother Patricia died. I took a week off school to handle her funeral arrangements. Patricia had no relatives, so only a few people came to offer condolences. Willow came as well. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling as she gently hugged me. George, you have to stay strong, she added. If your aunt were still alive, she wouldn't want to see you this sad. She had never met Patricia, yet acted as if she were deeply grief-stricken. I appreciated her performance and responded with a flat, indifferent fake. Patricia would have gladly skinned me alive, torn me apart, and ground my bones to ash. After the funeral ended, on my way home, I scattered Patricia's ashes casually onto a patch of grass by the roadside. When I opened the door, the house finally lacked that foul, oppressive smell that clung to someone bedridden for years. Standing by the wide-open window, I inhaled the fresh air with a sense of intoxicated relief. Perhaps because Patricia was dead, that night I had a dream I hadn't had in ages. I dreamed of my parents, dead for many years. Patricia was not my biological mother. My biological mother was a conqueror. She was the sunshine-like presence meant to heal the cold, troubled male lead, guiding him toward the right path. That male lead was my father, a man who had been abused since childhood and suffered from severe bipolar disorder. My mother succeeded. She married my father, and then gave birth to me, a happy family. When the system asked if she wanted to detach from the world, she hesitated, then chose to refuse. She told the system, back in my original world, I was an orphan. Being able to stay here, with Luis and George, makes me truly happy. Perhaps because I inherited half of her blood, I was able to hear her conversations with the system, but at the time, I was only 6. I didn't understand what they were talking about, so I ran to ask my father out of curiosity. My father exploded, demanding to know whether she planned to leave him, whether she had approached him with an ulterior motive from the very beginning. He roared like a wild beast. Have you ever truly loved me? My mother cried and said she did love him, but he couldn't hear anything. In his fury, he smashed everything in the house. After that day, a thin iron chain appeared around my mother's ankle. My father was a devil by nature. For my mother's sake, he had trimmed himself down, forced himself into the shape of a human being. But once he learned that the only love he believed in had been built on a mission, he completely reverted to his true form. During the long period of confinement that followed, sorrow slowly settled between my mother's brows. She no longer liked to smile, nor to speak. The system asked, "Are you leaving now?" When it asked that, I was lying on my mother's lap, listening to her read me a storybook. My mother's voice came to an abrupt halt. I looked up at her face from below. Her once bright and vibrant cheeks had turned pale and dim, like a flower slowly rotting. I said, "Mom, you should go." Tears fell from her eyes, one after another. She stroked my face, her voice weak but unwavering. No, she was answering the system, and me. "George, I won't leave you with that devil." The system was silent for a moment, then said, "All right then, goodbye, host. Luisa's healing arc has long been completed. A new male lead has already formed. I'm going to bind with a new conqueror now. The system left, but my mother didn't care. A pair of bright flames lit up in her eyes as she held me and said, "George, go steal Luis's keys. Mommy will take you away together." I stole the keys, but I didn't escape with her, because my father discovered us. I still don't know why I had been so careful. In a rage, my father grabbed me by the collar and threw me into a room. The heavy door shut out all the evil and noise. At first, I cried and beat on the door with my hands, but as time passed and no one came, I eventually curled up beside the door and fell asleep. When I woke up, I didn't see my mother. I saw the police. They said my father killed my mother, and then killed himself. Such a strange sentence. I became an unwanted orphan, taken in by a kind new neighbor who had just moved in. Her name was Patricia. At the very first glance I gave her, I heard a familiar voice. "Great news, system. I finally managed to adopt the male lead. Good thing you told me to report it earlier." If the male lead had really been taken away by his mother, my conquer plan would have failed instantly. Sigh. But since he's still so young, I'll have to use a familial route strategy to conquer him. How about a persona of a hardworking adoptive mother, running a street stall to support his schooling, and staying unmarried for life? In that moment, looking at Patricia's feigned motherly kindness, everything clicked in my mind. No wonder my mother and I got caught. No wonder my father ended up beating her to death. So it was me. That so-called new male lead. It was me. Chapter 4. The system and the conqueror deliberately crafted a tragic childhood for me, all just to stuff me into a pitiful shell that needed to be saved, needed to be redeemed. A shell meant to help them complete their missions. After Patricia failed the adoptive mother route, the system abandoned her and chose Willow instead. The system knew my mother very well. That was why it dressed Willow in a white dress, clipped sparkling rhinestones in her hair, sprayed her with orange-scented perfume, and made her act like a lively, bright little sun. They intended to use such similarities in appearance and personality to spark my interest in Willow so that the emotional plotline would naturally develop. But what they didn't know was, the more Willow resembled my mother, the more disgusted I felt. After returning to school, I would always find warm breakfasts and snacks inside my desk. The boy behind me said sourly, "The goddess treats you really well." I replied, "If I were you, I'd first worry about whether I can even get into college." He immediately backed down. Willow became a regular at my fried noodle stand. She always ordered a serving of fried noodles, sometimes with an egg, sometimes without. After eating, she would sit under the dim streetlight doing the homework our teachers had assigned during the day. When I closed up the stall, she would come over and beg me to walk her home. Days like this went on for a month. Then one day at school, I suddenly heard her screaming at the system in her mind. "Not increased at all. You're saying my redemption value for George hasn't increased at all. How is that possible? I've brought him breakfast for a whole month. I've got mosquito scars everywhere. How could he not be touched at all?" The system responded, "I told you long ago. Host, you need to adopt more intense methods." Willow asked, "Like what?" The system answered, "Find someone to smash his stall. Hire a few school thugs to bully him. Then you show up and save him from disaster." Willow fell silent for a moment before saying, "Don't you think that's shameless?" But the system replied, "I do not possess those emotions unique to humans. Based on calculations across multiple worlds, this method has the highest success rate." I sneered and stopped listening. That night, Willow still appeared punctually at my fried noodle stand. She didn't bring thugs to cause trouble. Instead, she ordered her usual fried noodles and stayed with me until closing. After the last customer left, she walked up to me, took a deep breath, and asked, "George, can I hire you to tutor me every night? That way you won't have to work so hard selling fried noodles." I glanced at her. "Are you pitying me? I'm feeling heartache for you." She gradually calmed down, her words growing steadier. "You study well. You're smart. Your energy should be spent on something more meaningful, not on selling fried noodles here." I rinsed the pots and dishes with the hose, never lifting my head. "Tutor you? That's not easier than selling fried noodles." Willow's face turned visibly red. You. My tone shifted. "But, I agree." She stared at me in a daze. Moonlight fell across the girl's healthy, rosy cheeks, giving off a faint, luminous sheen. She wasn't exactly kind, but she wasn't as vicious as Patricia. So, I was willing to give her a chance. I tutored Willow for an entire semester. Her grades skyrocketed, and when her father found out, he specially handed me a generous red envelope. It was gratitude, and also a reminder that the relationship between his daughter and me was nothing more than a simple employment arrangement. I accepted it gladly. I needed money. Only with money could I buy those expensive materials to conduct the experiments I'd planned for so long. In the second half of senior year, the school announced its guaranteed admission quota. It didn't go to me. It went to another girl who, though not as exceptional as I was in every regard, was still an excellent student. Willow stood up for me indignantly. "Why didn't they give it to you? You're clearly the top of the grade, by a huge margin," she said. "I'm going to make my dad pressure the school board." "Willow, don't make trouble for me," I said. "They didn't give it to me because I'm the only one who might become this year's top scorer in the National College Entrance Exam." This had been the agreement between me and the school from the day I enrolled. It was also the reason the school tolerated so much from me. Willow took a deep breath. "Being the top scorer isn't that easy. I know you're really smart, but can you really do it?" I asked her, "What do you think?" The system had already told her about my character setting. A genius boy whose parents died early, who worked part-time to support himself while caring for his paralyzed foster mother. After a moment of silence, she said, "If I didn't know you, I'd absolutely believe you could do it. But now that you're standing in front of me like this, I can't help worrying about you." The system spoke, healing value +1. Willow looked at me in shock. She had chased me relentlessly for nearly 2 years, and this was the first time she'd seen her numbers fluctuate. I lowered my eyes and said, "Thank you, Willow. Thank you for seeing me as a person, not as a character in a book, nor as a cold, rigid persona." Chapter 5. After the college entrance exam results were released, I unsurprisingly ranked first in the entire province. Because I had no parents, the school funded a small celebration banquet for me. After the banquet ended, Willow asked me to meet her at the beach. There were no stars tonight. The sea and the night blended together, silently sweeping across the shore. Amid the darkness, only Willow's body emitted a faint glow. She wore a starry night evening gown, layers of organza adorned with countless tiny crystals. Her hair was curled into delicate waves, tied high with a black ribbon, with a few strands falling beside her ears, adding a touch of playful charm. She confessed her feelings to me in the sea breeze. I rejected her. Why? She asked, forcing a smile. I replied, Willow, do you think an ant would ever fall in love with the one observing it? She said, what do you mean? I don't understand. I ignored her question. Do you know why your WeChat nickname is saved as number 2 in my phone? Her face looked a little pale in the dark. Why? I said, number 1 is my foster mother. Her name was Patricia. You might have already forgotten her name, even though you shed a few tears at her funeral. Willow had indeed forgotten. She had never paid attention to George's foster mother, a woman completely paralyzed, appearing only occasionally, nothing more than a prop designed to highlight George's tragic background. But when she heard George's next sentence, she felt the blood in her body turn cold inch by inch. Before you showed up, she was also bound to the system as a conqueror, the heroine of this world. She was supposed to play the role of a mother who raised a child through hardship, who would move me with love and heal me. But she died. Willow whispered. She looked at George. His eyes were darker than the sea. She unconsciously took a step back and asked in a trembling voice, how did she die? I answered gently, she died after you appeared. The system chose you and abandoned her. Willow continued pressing, step by step. Then why did she suddenly become paralyzed? It wasn't sudden. I explained patiently. She was getting old and must have developed high blood pressure at some point. One day while working the stall, she mistakenly took a blood pressure raising pill instead of the one that lowers it, and accidentally caused a cerebral hemorrhage. After they saved her, she was paralyzed from head to toe. After a long silence, I heard Willow ask in a trembling voice, did you do it? I bent down, letting my fingers glide through the cold seawater, feeling the cool liquid slip fluidly between them, and did not answer her question. Willow asked again, George, are you going to kill me? I straightened up and wiped my damp hands on my clothes. In a cold voice, I said, I know you applied to a university in City A. Willow, change your choice. Stay away from me. Could all of you just stay away from me? I never goddamn needed anyone to save me. I didn't want to become my father, and I didn't want to create another mother all over again. No matter how many times it happened, the only one who could save me from disaster was myself. I turned to leave, and Willow shouted behind me, George, but everything I've done for you is real. Didn't you feel even a little moved? She cried, what did I do wrong? I just wanted to go home. Then what did I do wrong? I turned my head, fatigue in my voice as I asked, I'm just an ant who cannot fall in love with the one observing it. And besides, do you really think I need to be saved by this kind of love? Chapter 6. Willow seemed to have completely given up on trying to conquer me. She changed her university application and went to study in another city. As for me, I entered the physics department at City A University, completed a direct PhD program, and chose to stay in the lab for research after graduation. The next time I contacted Willow, I was already 26. At that point, I had just led my team to publish an important paper at a well-known international conference. After attending the conference abroad, I got off the plane, went home, slept for a while, and planned to head out to buy some things once I woke up. But the moment I opened my front door, I saw a little girl standing there, looking up at me. She wore a pale yellow dress, a tiny baseball cap, and called me Daddy in a childish, innocent voice. Before I had time to feel the absurdity of it, I heard a familiar voice. Wah. Adorable baby daughter heals the tragic male lead and rescues her parents' love system. Do you think I'm acting convincingly as a child? Can you tell I'm actually 35? My eyes darkened. Without much emotion, the corner of my mouth lifted slightly as I crouched down and asked, who is your mother? She blinked her big eyes. Willow. Daddy. How can you forget Mommy? Oh, I remember now. This is the time when Daddy and Mommy aren't together yet. She clasped her hands behind her back and looked at me very seriously. Baby me traveled back in a time machine to save Daddy and Mommy's marriage. After settling this inexplicable child in place, I sat in my car and sent Willow a WeChat message. She hadn't blocked me, apparently, and she called back very quickly. I answered, and after 2 seconds, she finally spoke. George. Her voice was a little hoarse. My system disappeared. Will I die like Patricia? I didn't respond. I simply took out a cigarette, lit it, and let the harsh taste scrape bitterness across my tongue. After finishing the whole cigarette, I gave a quiet cough and asked, Willow, Do you still want to go home? On the other end of the line came her soft breathing. After a moment, she spoke with firm clarity. Every single minute and every single second since I arrived here, I've wanted to go home. Listening to her answer, I looked at my own reflection in the rearview mirror. For some reason, a smile tugged at my lips. I lowered the window and flicked the cigarette butt outside. Then I told her, "All right, Willow, you'll get what you wish for." Chapter 7. Just as suddenly as she had entered that world, 26-year-old Willow opened her eyes one day and found herself back in her original world. Even her body had returned to the 17-year-old self she had been when she first crossed over. In a daze, she walked down the spiral staircase. In the first-floor living room, the housekeeper was dusting with a feather duster. Daddy was sipping tea at the dining table, and Mommy was curled up on the sofa chatting with her best friend over the phone while wearing a face mask. Everything was both familiar and foreign. Hearing footsteps, Willow's mother naturally looked toward the staircase, but the very next second, her expression changed drastically. "Willow, what's wrong? Why are you crying like this? Who bullied you?" Only then did Willow realize she was already covered in tears, though she didn't know when she had started crying. "Mom," she sobbed as her mother pulled her into a fragrant embrace. "I had such a terrible, terrible nightmare." "What nightmare?" Willow froze for a moment before slowly saying, "I don't remember." "It's fine if you don't remember, Willow. Don't be afraid, dreams are always the opposite of reality." Her mother hugged her while comforting her, and at the same time told the housekeeper to go buy some pomelo leaves to wash away the unlucky aura for the young miss. Willow's life returned to its normal track. The strange thing was, even though she had been gone for 10 years, coming back felt natural, as if she had never left at all. Blankly, she wondered whether those 10 years in the other world had really been just a nightmare. Was it truly a dream? One day, while practicing piano in the music room, she suddenly heard the system's voice again. She was so startled that her fingers struck the wrong note. The system said, "Host, don't be afraid. I'm here to say goodbye." Willow's hands hovered above the piano keys. She asked, "What exactly happened that day?" The system replied, "After you failed the conquest, I selected host number 3, but George was simply too intelligent. He successfully developed a device that stripped me from number 3 and forcefully installed me into himself. Once I was transferred into him, the healing mission was completed instantly. I asked him what reward he wanted, unlimited wealth, or to live in a different world." The system continued, "You should already know that half of his bloodline comes from conquerors. If he wished, he could have gone to live in his mother's world, but he refused me and gave that opportunity to you instead. That is the reason you were able to return." Willow whispered, "So he really healed himself long ago." Her eyelashes trembled softly, and a tear fell onto the piano keys. She remembered that night on the dark beach, the boy turning away with cold indifference, saying he didn't need to be saved by anyone. So in the end, the only one who can save a person is that person themselves. "Yes," the system said quietly, "but this violates protocol. So I am about to be destroyed." Willow let out a mocking laugh. "Are you afraid?" "Not really," the system replied. "I wasn't installed with an emotion module. Being destroyed simply means returning from one set of ordered data back to another set of unordered data. But still, I felt I should say goodbye to you." "Goodbye, Willow." Willow froze in place. The system had never called her by her name. In the 10 years of the other world, only one person used that cool, quiet voice to call her, first name and last name together. $6 fried noodles, no extra egg. "See you tomorrow, Willow. Willow, don't make trouble for me. Thank you, Willow. Willow, you'll get what you wish for." In the music room, Willow cried and laughed at the same time. Like a fool, it was George. He had written this farewell from the other world into the system's code, and delivered it to her ears in the final moment before the system was completely destroyed. In the very end, they still had a proper goodbye.